Hitler didn't just appear out of nowhere. His rise was a slow, calculated climb that exploited fear, chaos, humiliation, and the psychological wounds Germany never healed after World War I. And the most dangerous part? Almost every step looked legal, normal, and even logical to people living through the moment. Nobody thought a dictatorship was being built until it already existed. Germany in 1918 was a country gutted from the inside. The old empire collapsed, hunger was everywhere, and soldiers returned home to find their families starving and their future destroyed. The government signed a peace deal that practically guaranteed the population would feel betrayed. The Treaty of Versailles wasn't just a document, it was a national humiliation baked into law. Losing land, paying crushing reparations, being blamed for the entire war. That resentment didn't sit quietly. It fermented. It created millions of people desperate for someone to blame, and even more desperate for someone to follow. Hitler's early life didn't remotely predict a future dictator. He was a failed artist who couldn't get into art school, drifting through Vienna and Munich with oversized ambition and no real direction. But the one place he thrived was the army. Not because he was a military genius, but because for the first time, he belonged to something larger than himself. The chaos of defeat in 1918 didn't break him. It gave him a mission. He saw the weakness. He saw the anger, and he saw that speeches could move people more than bullets. After the war, Germany was swarming with new political groups trying to take advantage of the chaos. Hitler joined one of the smallest, the German Workers' Party. It barely had a couple dozen members, no real influence and no clear ideology. But Hitler understood something everyone else missed. In a broken country, a microphone could be more powerful than an army. He didn't just join the party, he consumed it. He transformed it into the National Socialist German Workers' Party, the Nazis, and turned his speeches into an emotional weapon. And those early speeches weren't random. Hitler was studying his audience like a scientist studying reactions. He noticed what made people angry. He noticed what made them cheer. He discovered how to simplify complex problems into a single sentence. It didn't matter if it was accurate. What mattered was that it felt true to the people listening. Germany's economy was collapsing. Inflation was wiping out life savings. Veterans felt abandoned. Hitler didn't need to create the fear. He just needed to speak to it. Then came 1923, the year Germany hit absolute rock bottom. Hyperinflation turned money into wallpaper. Bread cost billions. People burned cash because it was cheaper than firewood. The government looked clueless, helpless, and weak. Hitler believed this was the moment to strike. He attempted a sudden takeover in Bavaria, inspired by Mussolini's March on Rome. But Germany wasn't Italy. The attempt failed. Hitler was arrested, and the movement should have died right there. But instead of vanishing, Hitler used his trial as a national spotlight. Newspapers quoted him every day. He framed himself as a patriot standing up for a nation betrayed. And when he went to prison, he didn't come out defeated. He came out with strategy. Violent revolution was out. Legal infiltration was in. If he wanted power, he would take it through the system itself. That shift changed everything. When Hitler rebuilt the Nazi Party, he didn't build it like a normal political organization. He built it like a movement, a brand, a family. Propaganda became its lifeblood. Posters, newspapers, rallies, uniforms, marches, everything designed to give the illusion of strength and inevitability. The party created youth groups, women's groups, worker organizations. Everyone had a place. That was the genius. He wasn't selling policies, he was selling identity. People who felt invisible suddenly felt like they belonged to something powerful. Then the world collapsed again. In 1929, the Great Depression hit, and Germany was one of the hardest hit nations on earth. Millions lost their jobs. Starvation returned. The government froze. And every one of those failures made Hitler's message sound a little more appealing. He attacked weak politicians, blamed outsiders, and promised strength, order, and a return to greatness. He didn't have solutions, he had emotional shortcuts. And in desperate times, emotional shortcuts beat complicated plans. By 1932, the Nazis had become the largest political party in Germany. Not because most people wanted Hitler, but because Germany was fractured into dozens of parties fighting each other. The political elites believed they could control Hitler. They thought they could put him in government, keep him in check, and use him to calm the extremists. They underestimated him catastrophically. In January 1933, Hitler became chancellor. But for him, that wasn't the finish line. It was the opening move. Chancellors could be fired. Governments could be reshuffled. If he wanted to rewrite Germany, he needed something permanent, uncontested control. 4 weeks later, he got the opportunity. The Reichstag fire ripped through the German parliament building, flames lit up the night sky, and within hours Hitler framed it as proof that Germany was under attack from its enemies. Whether it was a lone radical or something more orchestrated didn't matter. Fear spread faster than the fire itself. Hitler demanded emergency powers to counter these threats. The government agreed. Overnight, Germany became unrecognizable. Newspapers were restricted. Opposition leaders were jailed. Basic rights were suspended. And Hitler gained the power to rule by decree. This wasn't a temporary response. It was a trap snapping shut. But the final transformation came with the Enabling Act. Surrounded by pressure, intimidation, and armed guards, the parliament voted to hand Hitler full legislative authority. He didn't dissolve democracy. He hollowed it out until nothing was left. He then merged his position with the presidency after Hindenburg's death, making himself the absolute leader of the German state. Soldiers swore personal loyalty to him, not the country. That was the moment every warning sign, every speech, every rally, every emotional trigger finally paid off. He had climbed from obscurity to uncontested power without winning a true majority of the population. Not through genius, not through overwhelming support, but through crisis, manipulation, fear, and the perfect storm of political weakness. But the deeper truth is this: Hitler's rise wasn't one event. It was dozens of small steps, each one looking reasonable in isolation. A speech here, a law, a vote, a compromise, a fear. People told themselves they were temporary measures. They told themselves it couldn't get worse. They told themselves they were maintaining stability. But stability was the illusion Hitler used to create instability on his own terms. What made his rise so chilling was how many people believed they were doing the right thing at the time. Politicians thought they were protecting the nation. Citizens thought they were restoring order. Soldiers thought they were defending the country. Step by step, they contributed to a system that gave one man total control. And yet, behind all of this, there was another factor people ignore: timing. Hitler succeeded because he appeared at a moment when Germany had lost faith in everything else. When the economy crashed, when the political system froze, when humiliation felt permanent, people reached for certainty. And Hitler offered certainty, even if it was built on fear. His rise is a warning. Dictators rarely take power by force at the beginning. They rise through emotion, through crises, through promises of strength, through the belief that just a little more power will fix things. That's how he climbed. He didn't storm the system. He walked through its front door while the system held it open. That's how Hitler rose. Through a nation in pain, a world in crisis, weak leaders who thought they could control him, and millions of people who wanted simple answers to impossible problems. It was a slow climb built on resentment, fear, pride, identity, and the failure of ordinary politics. And once he reached the top, the consequences became irreversible. If you want more deep World War II breakdowns like this, make sure you hit subscribe and drop a comment telling me what moment you want next.